Hi everyone. So this video is a little bit about movement and mental health. I think we're probably all fairly on board with there being a connection between movement and mental health. When we're not moving, that is not great for our mental health. But how can somatic movement specifically help us with our mental health, help us to feel less stressed, help us to feel more like we want to get out there and live our lives? So there's a few things, a few ways in which it helps us. So for one thing, chronic pain. I know that a number of us here in this somatic movement space have either had chronic pain or are currently experiencing chronic pain. I certainly have, and I can testify to the effects on my mental health. It is very difficult to kind of enjoy life and get out there and do the things you want to do and kind of muster the energy when you are in pain. It sort of feels like all you can, like it's your whole focus, isn't it? All you can think about is how awful you feel. Somatic movement helps us to reduce chronic pain. It's also great if you have like an acute burst of pain, like, you know, your back goes or something. You can very gently use somatic movement to help deal with that. But in that sort of more ongoing sense of the pain that sort of lingers and just sort of like it's always present, you know? If we can chip away at that, even if we can gain sort of, temporary relief, which in terms of somatic movement, I have found you can gain temporary relief and then over time, the periods between the pain increase, the severity of the pain lessens, but certainly reducing chronic pain really does help us feel a lot better in the mind as well, right? Another way that somatic movement really helps us is it helps us to breathe more efficiently. So because somatics helps us to free up muscles that are habitually contracted in the body, those muscles that are held tight really can stop us from breathing freely. So do this with me if you feel like you want to. If you are holding a lot of muscle contraction in the front of the body, so that kind of slouchy sort of forward collapsed sort of posture and tight belly, tight chest, it's really hard for the diaphragm to do what it needs to do. It's really hard for the lungs to expand. The breath won't come as easily. And if we are struggling to breathe, if we're holding that stress, that sends a message to our whole system that we are stressed. Everything tightens up more, it's a vicious circle, everything feels more challenging. So if we can release those muscles that are holding tight and we can breathe freely, that really helps to reduce those feelings of stress in the system and get us out of that vicious circle of I feel stressed, I am stressed, and like just keeps snowballing, right? Another thing that I love about somatic movement is it helps us to sleep better. That may be because we, over time, reduce our chronic pain. Obviously, pain stops you from sleeping. But just that sort of general feeling of tension in the body does not help us to fall asleep or to stay asleep or to sleep well. So if we can release some of that tension, notice what's holding tight, let it go, then we can bring like true relaxation to the body. I have got a very short free practice to help with sleep. I have heard that people have tried it and actually fallen asleep whilst doing it, which is not particularly the purpose, but by all means, put it on just before bed if that's what you'd like to do. I will put the link to that below and you can have a go at that if you like. But yeah, if we sleep better, then in our waking hours, we feel a lot better, right? Okay. the other thing that I wanted to say was coming back again to that sort of idea of stress held in the body. So stress is held in the body through habitual muscle contraction. Imagine if someone, if you're feeling under pressure, what do? We all have slightly different ways that it shows up in the body, but it might be like sort of hunch your shoulders, it might be tense your jaw. So if there are stresses in our lives, and that is inevitable, it's inevitable that our body shows up in that stress through that tightening of the muscles, and we want to be able to let that go when we don't need it, right? And we can do stuff like stretching, right? And that can feel great, but if we don't get in at the level of the nervous system and retrain the brain how to release muscle tension, about the fact that we don't want to stay in that stress state, we want to go, oh, I'm done with that. I can let that go. Then we tend to just slip back into those habits of stressed movement, stress posture, even when there isn't stress, or there's always some stress, but if there isn't like a specific stress. And again, then we're back in that sort of vicious circle of, my body says I'm stressed, so I feel stressed. And obviously that is going to carry over into how I live my life. And then one other thing that I wanted to say about somatic movement is, imagine that you are holding muscles tight all day and every day. That actually uses a lot of energy. It also makes it very difficult to move. So if we can release some of that, then we have a little bit more energy to move, and it is a little bit easier to move. Then we might feel like moving more, so we move more, and then we feel better. So for that, somatic movement brings us into this more sort of, what's the opposite of a vicious circle? A virtuous circle? I don't know. But this sort of idea of, if I can let a little bit more go in the muscles, I'll move more, and that moving more helps me feel better, and feeling better means I move more. It all impacts on itself. So those are some of the things, some of the ways that somatic movement helps us with our mental health. So if any of those resonate with you, then feel free to come and join us in our sessions and see how somatic movement impacts your life, because that's what it's all about. It's not about what we do on the floor, on the mat, right? It's a little bit about that. But over time, it's really about how somatic movement can change how we live our lives and make us feel better, and make us, have us be able to do the things that we want to do. So I look forward to connecting with you and seeing how this work can help you.